The river ran wild that evening, swollen with rain and restless wind, its surface broken with silver scars of light, as if the sky itself had shattered upon it. Some say water remembers every sorrow, every loss, every life it has swallowed whole. Elias Boone knew something of that kind of remembering. He rode slow along the river's edge, his horse's hooves muffled in the mud, his eyes fixed on the restless current as if it mirrored the storm in him. He had been a man alone too long, haunted by mistakes no whiskey could drown, carrying silence the way others carried weapons. It was then he saw her, a flash of movement in the torrent, arms flailing against the pole of the river. For a moment, Elias thought it might be a trick of the light. But then came the cry, short, sharp, swallowed almost instantly by the rushing water. He dropped from his horse before he had time to think. Boots slipped in the mud. The river pulled at him with claws of icy current, but he plunged in. The weight of the water pressed against his chest, his breath burning in his lungs, until his hand caught the fabric of a dress, a wrist so cold it felt carved from stone. He fought against the river's hunger, dragging her toward the bank, every stroke of his arms a battle against his own fear that he might fail again, that death might steal her too. When they tumbled into the grass, gasping and coughing, she clung to the earth as though it might rise and carry her back into life. Her hair lay heavy across her shoulders, strands plastered to her cheeks. Her chest rose and fell with fragile rhythm, like a bird battered by storm. Elias crouched beside her, too breathless to speak, until finally her eyes opened. Dark, steady, searching his face. She whispered her name, Ayoka, voice faint as the last thread of dusk. He lifted her carefully, carrying her toward the shelter of his camp. The night grew quiet around them, as if the land itself recognized the weight of what had just been spared. She did not speak again, but her hand brushed his arm, not clinging, only acknowledging. Elias felt something he had not felt in years, that perhaps he had been meant to be there, in that moment, for a reason greater than himself. By morning, the story had already reached town. May Hollister, keeper of the inn and keeper of every whisper worth turning to scandal, told it with relish. That Cowboy Boone pulled a native girl right out of the river like she was his own blood, she said, pouring coffee with a smirk. Mark my words, nothing good comes from it. Folks'll talk. Sheriff already is. The sheriff, Klein, did not smirk. His words were flint struck against stone. Boone's got no sense, meddling where he don't belong. Trouble follows choices like that. And so, in saloons and on porches, the tale spread, sharpened by tongues that loved the taste of judgment more than truth. Elias had planned to ride out, to vanish back into the wandering solitude that kept him safe from people and their knives of gossip. Yet as he saddled his horse, a gathering appeared before him, men and women from Ayoka's tribe, standing silent, eyes steady. At their center was Chief Noden, his presence calm as old stone. And there she was, Ayoka, her face no longer pale from the river's theft, but certain, resolute. The chief spoke with a voice that carried across the earth. My daughter lives because of you. By our ways, she may choose her path. And she has chosen. Then Ayoka stepped forward, her gaze fixed on Elias. She did not plead, nor did she smile. Her words came with the weight of destiny, soft yet unshakable. I choose him as my husband. The silence after those words was heavier than thunder. Elias felt his throat tighten, his past rising like ghosts around him. He had once promised a woman's safety and failed. He had once believed himself worthy of love and been proven wrong. To be chosen now openly, without condition, it was too much for the scarred heart inside him. He wanted to refuse, to walk away, before he disappointed her, before the world crushed them both beneath its judgment. But Ayoka did not press. She simply stood, her hands at her sides, eyes patient, offering him dignity instead of desperation. What grew between them after that was not loud. It was not a fire that roared. It was quiet, steady, like the slow warming of earth after frost. When she brought him a bowl of food, she placed it before him without a word, yet he felt nourished beyond hunger. When he fumbled at his work, she reached out to steady the reins of his horse, and their hands brushed in a silence that echoed louder than any vow. Some nights she sang by the fire, low, haunting melodies that curled around his heart and mended seams he thought would always stay torn. Still, the town circled them like wolves. At the saloon, May sneered. She picked him? Lord help us all. That girl don't know what shame is. Sheriff Klein leaned close, voice a warning hiss. You've tied yourself to fire, Boone. It'll burn you down. Best cut loose now. Elias carried those words with him, shame pressing on his shoulders. But when he saw Ayoka's calm gaze, her quiet strength, he found he could not let go. She gave him something the town never had. She saw him as a man worth saving. And in time, Elias began to believe her eyes more than their tongues. He found himself working differently, hands steady on the plow, not because he had to, but because he wanted to build something she could belong to. He began to laugh again, short, unpolished bursts that surprised even him. At night, when the stars drew their endless map overhead, he caught her looking at him. And for once he did not look away. But the world does not grant peace without testing it. One evening, a crowd gathered at the edge of his land, townsfolk, muttering like a storm. Send her back, they demanded. She don't belong here. Neither do you if you keep her. Faces were hard with fear disguised as righteousness. For a heartbeat, Elias nearly faltered. He saw the weight of his past and the fury of the present pressing against him, threatening to crush the fragile bond he had begun to treasure. Yet when Ayoka's hand slipped into his, her touch was calm, steadying, as though she carried an unshakable truth within her. Elias stepped forward, his voice rough but resolute. I won't surrender her, he said, eyes meeting every pair that sought to shame him. She chose me, and I'll choose her every day the Lord allows me breath. Chief Noden, who had come with the tribe to witness, lifted his hand. My daughter is not stolen, he declared, his voice carrying over the restless crowd. She is given by her own will. That makes her union sacred. The murmurs fell silent, for no one dared challenge the weight of his words. Slowly, the crowd thinned, their judgment scattering like dry leaves in the wind. And so, in the hush that followed, Elias stood with Ayoka at his side, her fingers still entwined with his, her presence a quiet storm that had steadied his broken spirit. The river still roared not far away, its current endless. Yet to Elias it no longer looked like a place of death. It looked like where life had been given back. Sometimes grace does not arrive in the thunder of triumph, nor in the blaze of grand gestures. Sometimes it comes in the quiet way someone looks at you, and in that look, you are no longer a drifter, no longer a ghost. You are a home. And if ever you have felt unworthy of such love, remember this. Even the most battered soul can be chosen, not for what they've done or lost, but simply because, in another's eyes, they are enough. Elias Boone, once a man who rode with only silence for company, now walked the earth with a hand in his, and a life worth staying for.